the growth partner here at Move and a sourcing specialist. So you might have seen me on a few episodes here at Supply Chain Moves. So I'm going to be hosting this episode. And today, what we're hoping to do is I want to do a founder-friendly wrap-up of what 2025 did to sourcing and inventory in DTC and what I think what actually matters coming into 2026. So we're just coming off Christmas and BFCM, and I hope that everyone had a great holidays, and of course, we're heading into 2026. And because if 2025 taught us something, it's this: the cost of being wrong went up. When the cost of being wrong goes up, you stop playing for perfection and you start playing for optionality. So if you're a DTC founder, an operator, someone running an e-commerce brand, this episode is basically your how to not get trapped playbook for 2026. So we're here at Move. We've spoken to a lot of DTC brand owners, and we're sort of giving you guys a playbook and a guide as to what we did for a couple of these brands, and hopefully not get caught out in 2026. So let me just start with the story, because this is how it played out for a lot of brands. It's early 2025. You've got a plan. Your landed cost model is clean. Margins are tight but workable. You've got your next PO mapped. You're timing inventory around promos. And you're doing the normal founder juggling act, as a lot of DTC founders are experiencing, especially if you're a solopreneur and you're juggling everything from the marketing side, the supply chain side, and even the financial side. So when you're doing these things, imagine you're juggling all of that, and then numbers decide to change. Not because your product changed, not because your customer changed, but because the world changed. Tariffs, trade fiction, cost swings, long lead times, more uncertainty, basically. The part that really messes people up is not just the cost increase, it's the timing. It's realizing the model that's worked in January is not trustworthy in April. So the first deep dive lesson is this. In 2025, the risk wasn't the higher costs, it was shortening the reaction time. When reaction time shrinks, a lot of common DTC habits become dangerous. Single supplier dependency, big batch buying to get price breaks, forecasting based on vibes, treating freight like a checkbox after the PO. So that's the year-end headline 2025 made. And what we're hoping for is the fact that we can help a lot of you guys before 2026 starts, basically. And what we're looking at basically is the truth. So here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of DTC brands treated sourcing like a one-time decision, finding a factory, getting a price, run production, repeat. So, but 2025 forced the shift. Basically, sourcing stopped being a purchasing decision and became a business model decision. And I want to name the hidden costs that showed up more than ever this year. The stuff founders feel but don't always quantify. So, hidden cost number one, the decision lag. You realize something is off: price, lead time, quality, cash, and it still takes you 4 to 10 weeks to do anything meaningful about it. By the time that the fix arrives, the problem's already moved. Hidden cost number two, the quality tax. This is the cost of defects, reworks, replacements, refunds, poor reviews, and the stress of chasing a supplier who is not consistent. A cheap unit cost is expensive if it comes with a quality tax. Hidden cost number three, the cash timing tax. When you can afford the PO, you can't always afford the timing. Deposit here, balance there, freight bill here, duties there, 3PL fees here. The timing can definitely wreck even when the math looks fine on paper. So we've got to think about a lot of these things coming into 2026. So coming into the hidden cost number four, the switching tax. Founders don't switch suppliers because it's annoying. They don't switch because onboarding takes real work, sampling, specs, negotiation, QA, and operational change. 2025 made the switch tax feel heavier, so a lot of brands delayed, which leads to the big theme we should deep dive, which is sourcing paralysis. So let's name it properly. Sourcing paralysis is when you know your current setup is risky, but switching feels expensive, slow, uncertain. So you decide to do nothing, or you do the spreadsheet version of action, and you build a list and you send 2 emails and you tell yourself you'll revisit this after peak season. I get it. Waiting feels safe, but in supply chain, waiting is a decision. So a founder-friendly way to diagnose it is the 3 signs you're in sourcing paralysis. So let's give you a little bit of an idea. So a lot of you might think about how you were in 2025 and just think if you sort of went through a couple of these things. So here are the three signs. You say we should diversify, but you have no sample ready backup, or your supplier is fine, but you're nervous every time you place a PO. You keep delaying because you want the market to stabilize. So these are very common problems that we hear almost on a day-to-day basis whenever we talk to a lot of these DTC owners, CEOs of DTC brands. So you're not alone. The big mental shift for 2026 is this. Don't try to eliminate uncertainty, but build a system that performs even when uncertainty exists. So instead of asking, what's the perfect country or the perfect factory, maybe you can start asking, how quickly can I create a real backup option? How do I reduce the cost of switching? Or how do I keep product flowing even if one line breaks? So that's when optionality comes in. So if you take one thing from this episode, basically let it be this. In 2026, the brands that win are not the brands with absolute lowest costs. Yes, you want to make as much profit as possible, but if you think about it, they are the brands with the most options and the least chaos. Because at the end of the day, when you're trying to run a business, you'd want to be focused on profitability, and you don't want to be firefighting every single day. How is my inventory? Am I going to overstock? Am I going to have enough stock for BFCM? So these are the type of things that you need to keep in mind. And the best type of business, even not just e-commerce, is one that has the least amount of chaos and one that's going to give you less headache, and which is one that's going to give you more options and ensure that you maintain and keep the sustainability of your brand. So here's the framework, and I'll go deeper than last time. So the optionality stack. So there are 4 layers to the optionality stacks. Layer 1, product optionality. So this is where you design so you don't get trapped. And this is where you design for substitution and consistency. So there's a couple of examples for this. You spec acceptable ranges, not perfect unicorn specs where one supplier is the only option. You avoid one proprietary component that has a single source, and you standardize components across SKUs when possible so you can consolidate buying power and reduce stockouts. So just a quick founder question. Let's say I was a DTC founder. If I had to switch factories, would my products survive the transition? So if your answer is no, product optionality is your first job. Layer 2, supplier optionality, which is basically the difference between a list and a real backup. This one's huge, so let's do a little bit of a deep dive. So having backup suppliers in a spreadsheet is not optionality. Optionality means you can move without panic. So that's what sample ready actually means. So you're going to hear, if a lot of brands talk to us, you'll hear, we're going to get you sample ready vendors, sample ready factories. So what does sample ready actually mean? So it means you've confirmed capability and equipment, not just, yes, we can do it, or you have a pricing in the ballpark including toolant if relevant. You have a really realistic lead time, not a sales lead time. And also you have a clear, simple, and a clear sample plan with dates. So here's simple three-step supplier here's a three-step sample supplier backup ladder. So number one, you'll have a long list, lots of names, low effort. Number two, short list, 3 to 5 you actually believe. Number three, sample ready backup. So 1 to 2 that can realistically take a PO. So if you think about it, you'll have and create a ladder. So you'll start with a long list, as I mentioned, then a short list, and then you'll sort of chop it down until you get a sample ready backup. So most brands stop at step 1 or step 2. So if you sound like maybe one of those that you've done a little bit of a long list previously with lots of vendors in your list, and then you maybe, I decided to sort of chop it down to 3 or 5. Maybe you've done this before, but how far have you actually taken it just because you're missing one last final step, which is the sample ready backup? So that short list of yours, can those realistically take your PO? Have you done sampling with them? Are you satisfied with the sampling? Have you done resam? So these are the type of questions that you have to take. Don't just stop at step 1 or 2. In 2026, winners have to get to step 3. Also, here are a few green flags and red flags founders can use fast. So green flags, they ask smart questions about specs and tolerances. They respond with structure, not just okay. They offer quality checkpoints and are transparent about limits. And also they can show similar work, not random factory photos. So these are the type of things that you have to look for coming into 2026 when you're looking at these vendors. Red flags. So these are the things that you have to avoid. They only talk about price and never about the process. And another thing is they avoid sharing details like material certs, QC plan, or references. And they agree to everything instantly without clarifying questions. So sometimes if it sounds too good, it probably is too good to be true. So another thing is they also can't explain why defects happen and how they prevent them. So at the end of the day, when you're speaking to these vendors, they are the experts. And if they can't properly demonstrate that they are experts, you probably need to look for a different one. So if you want to be calm in 2026, you need at least one sample ready backup. So layer 3, root optionality. You don't just source product, you source a lane. This is where founders get blindsided. Even if your factory is stable, your route can break. So in supply chain, it starts at the vendor, basically. So let's say that you have the best vendor ever. They hit your costs, your target price, your lead time, your payment terms. They fit everything, and they're perfect. Their samples are perfect. Something else you have to think about is route optionality. Route optionality means you already know your primary port and your backup port, your preferred forwarder and backup forwarder, and what you do if ocean slips and when you trigger air, partial air, or split shipments. So these are the type of things that you need to keep in mind. But here's a simple rule. If you're deciding freight upgrades while you are already late, you're definitely going to overpay. So the move is to pre-decide your triggers. If production slips past this date, we split shipments. If inventory runway drops below X number of days, we upgrade mode. If demand spikes, we do partial air on bestsellers only. That's what you call route optionality. Layer 4 is cash optionality, where the real constraints usually live. So you'll definitely I think a lot of DTC owners always keep that in mind. Like at the back of your head, you're going to be thinking, I probably don't have enough money for this PO. I'm just going to do this or blah, blah, blah. So you're constrained by the cash. So cash optionality means you plan the deposits, balances, freights, duties, 3PL fees like a calendar. 2 deep dive tactics that help a lot. PO staggering. Instead of one big bet, you stage it. You keep the business alive even if the forecast is wrong. Number 2, term negotiation with a reason. Founders often ask for better terms like it's a favor. In 2026, you ask like an operator, we're planning a long-term partnership. Here's our expected PO cadence. We can align terms so that you can scale cleanly. Cash optionality is not being rich. It's actually just about being structured. So another part of the supply chain that we sort of have to talk about is your inventory strategy. So how 2025 changed the way we should buy, given with all the issues with the tariffs, the geopolitical issues and everything. So inventory was a silent killer in 2025 because it forced founders into 2 fears. Number 1, fear of running out and losing momentum, and fear of overbuying and killing cash. So here's a bit of a deep dive. So bucket, something that you can do and something that you have to be mindful of when you're doing inventory is you can actually bucket your SKUs into 3 different groups. So a lot of if you have inventory planners in your team, they're probably doing this, but I know some new DTC owners probably just have a simple sheet. Okay, this is how much stock we have, and isn't really deep diving on the data side. So bucket number 1 should be the daily sellers. This is your consistent movers. These deserve the buffer stock and steady replenishment, so don't gamble here. So remember that bucket number 1 are your daily sellers. Never gamble on that. This is something that you have to have buffer stock. Bucket number 2 are your spiky sellers. These are going to be promo-driven, seasonal, influencer-driven SKUs. And these need planned builds, not reactive POs. So this is where you set the promo calendar, then you plan the inventory around it. Bucket number 3 is going to be the uncertain sellers. New products, these are going to be your experimental products, predictable SKUs, and these should not be funded like your daily sellers. So basically, when we're thinking about that, a lot of I know the language of the inventory planners are going to be, we're going to be doing an ABC analysis. So that's basically what this is, but it's to give you a little bit of a idea that inventory deserves a different buying strategy depending on demand confidence. So one more thing that matters a lot coming into 2026 is stop treating your inventory like a warehouse problem. Inventory is a marketing problem, a finance problem, and a supply chain problem. If marketing can't share timing, finance can't model cash, supply chain can't hit availability, and that's where chaos comes from. So at this next stage, we always try our best, and I think a lot of DTC owners, we worked with a DTC owner currently here at Move that's always utilizing AI. May that be ChatGPT, Gemini. We're very strong users of AI, inventory planners that have AI built into them, customer service AI apps. So these are really common ways that you can leverage the power of AI in your supply chain coming into 2026. So this is just going to be a quick note on AI just because everyone asks. Personally, I'm optimistic about AI in supply chain, but only when it's tied to decisions. AI won't save a process. It won't save a bad process, but it will definitely accelerate a good one. So if you want to use AI 2026, use it for things that reduce decision lag. Forecasting that updates weekly, not monthly. Inventory optimizations that tells you when to reorder, not just what happened. Supply chain planning that ties lead times, cash timing, and PO dates into one view. So do not just buy these tools just so that you want to feel modern. Use and buy these tools if you want to reduce chaos. So at the end of the day, yes, we have these tools that are available. I know a lot of people try to invest a lot of money in a lot of these inventory management apps. But at the end of the day, you can never beat a human that has really good Excel skills. That's just based on experience. That's something that you can never replace. Yes, we have these AI tools, but we always try our best to somehow leverage it to make our work easier. That's basically it. So here's a 7-day action plan. Just so that you have an idea, if I was a founder listening to this and I wanted it to turn into an action, I wanted it to turn into action this week, here's what I do. I'd pick one bestseller and build a backup plan around it. Don't start with every SKU. Start with a SKU that pays your bills. Number 2, qualify one real backup supplier, not a list. One backup that is sample ready. Of course, as I mentioned before, what those things are. Create a simple landed cost model with scenarios. So best case, expected, and worst case. Include duties, freight ranges, and packaging. I think this is something that we have to be very mindful of, just because of tariffs and all the uncertainty that we experience in 2025. Tip number 4, stagger your next PO. Don't make one giant bet unless you're extremely confident. So that's something that you have to be very mindful of. Number 5, start a weekly runway habit. How many days of inventory do you have, and what date must you place the next PO? If you do these 5 things, your stress level will drop, because you'll definitely have options. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to this, and yeah, that's a wrap. 2025 raised the costs of being wrong. 2026 is about building optionality, building systems, and staying calm while everyone else is reacting. And what we look forward to is a 2026 where you're gonna have less chaos in your supply chain. So only way to get there is to have options. And yeah, if you're a founder listening, I hope that your 2026 is going to be a very fruitful one. Yeah, if you want help building this for your brand, feel free to reach out. We do this for a lot of brands, and it's a lot easier to build a sourcing system now than to build it during a crisis. So yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next episode.